John Smyth, thank you very much indeed for appearing on eCancer TV. You are the past president of ECCO. Are you having a good time? Retired? Are you taking it easy?
I don't believe in retirement, but it's absolutely wonderful to be at this meeting and not actually feel responsible for running it. 2 years ago, it was the transition between FEX and ECCO, which was politically very challenging, as everyone knows. But in fact, just the run-up to such a big meeting was a huge challenge. And I really compliment the people this time for it's been much easier for them because they knew what they were expecting. But it's a big meeting. It's I think the program is very strong.
Part of the interesting part of the program for me is the session you're running with pharma academia. And, I led with that in the editorial in the newsletter of the conference this morning, provoked by your session. Tell us about it.
Well, I'm really looking forward to this session in the way it's been designed. What we've got are 3 panels: academia, industry, and licensing. And what we're trying to do is tease out, and we'll see if it works, but we're teasing out this extraordinarily important current issue of what on earth we can do about the cost of licensing trials. There are some people play around with the numbers, but they say there's some 700 medicines being seriously considered as anti-cancer drugs. By the time you get to the end of a phase 3 pivotal licensing trial, the sort of numbers that people quote are €1,000 million or dollars, which is absolutely impossible to sustain in the present financial climate. And yet I know, from having spent over 10 years now involved with licensing, both in the UK CHM system and with the EMEA, a lot of those pivotal trials, I'm sorry to say, they're very poorly designed, and they fail at the point of licensing. And then you've got it's a lose-lose. You spend all that money, you don't get a new drug through, and the whole system gets clogged up. So what I hope we'll be teasing out are some ideas that we have to try to vastly improve the quality of what we conventionally call phase 3 trials, to shorten the time span, and therefore, if you shorten the investment, we have to ask industry to therefore charge less at the point of launching a successful medicine. But we need, in non-oncology indications, people will expect a 60, 70, 80% benefit in the licensing trial. And I know that because I sit on the licensing things where you see other indications. In cancer, we're thrilled to bits if we get 15%. Well, I think that's got to become history. We've got to do better than that. Select the patients better for the trials, get up to a 50%. Gleevec isn't the only molecule that could work. And if we can reduce the cost, then I think the whole thing will flow. Otherwise, I think we're facing a real problem.
Lex Egermont, who took over from you as ECCO president, was talking about this exact issue in melanoma. Suddenly, melanoma has cracked.
Yeah.
And we've got 2 or 3 molecular targets, and suddenly we've got drugs coming in with 50% response rates.
Yes.
And that's the sort of data you're looking for. I was wondering whether you share my optimism about the fact that pharma and academia are speaking to one another again. I think the Clinical Trials Directive did terrible damage to relationships. There's a strong view in academia that the pharma companies had organised the EU directive on clinical trials in order to make it easier for them to get space to run their trials and suppress the academic trials. It certainly put a lot of academic trials out of business. Do you think the dialogue is meaningful, or is it just cosmetic?
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the concept, but it is important that our colleagues in medicine understand, leave alone the lay public. It isn't an us and them. It really isn't. And I know that the middleman, the person who looks like the boring gatekeeper involved in licensing, they don't think that industry are the bad guys. But I think, curiously, the financial meltdown in the world is actually helping us here. It's forcing people to come to the table. But I really don't see it as an us and them at all. I think again, I hope it'll come out in some of the discussion in our session, but I think it's important to recognize there are different objectives if you start a piece of research from an academic point of view than from an industry-driven point of view. Industry has to be financially motivated, and I don't see that there's anything wrong with that whatsoever. If we don't have successful pharma industry, we're never going to have new medicines and new technologies. And these things don't just apply to medicines, do they? I mean, imaging, some super sessions at this conference on imaging, the power of imaging, which, as I I think is one of the ways we can actually improve on these trials. But I don't think it's an us and them. On the other hand, one of the pitches which I think will come up is that I think the advisory structure could be better used. I think we've got the tradition of industry getting together cabals of people on scientific advisory groups, experts in the field. But I don't think, and you and I have had the experience of working with those sort of groups, I don't think that's been optimized at all. And I think that, for example, industry's tendency to design a phase 3 program at the time when they design their phase 1, i.e. they've got the whole development program sorted out at the beginning, I think that's the sort of mistake, particularly with the modern molecules we're using. I think you really have to take it step by step, be prepared to take a pause at the end of a phase 0 or phase 1 trial to really say, hang on, what is the question we're asking in a licensing trial, in a pivotal trial, to make sure that we're actually using our intelligence all the way through. So I think there's room for more constructive dialogue, but I don't think it's being done in any sense of hostility or, you know, we will beat industry because they just want to be fat cats, or industry saying these academics are so naive, they don't understand the financial position at all. I think there's a real meeting of minds there, and that's got to be helpful for the ultimate aim of getting the right medicines through at the end of the day.
Future of the biotechs, are sandwiched in between, or many of them are going to the wall now with a financial squeeze?
They need help. They need help because my experience is that the biotech companies often do the sort of thing I've just been talking about. They actually, perhaps through necessity, they do tend to listen. And I think the people in the biotech companies who are driving small portfolios have a better chance of making, for example, the no-go decision, however difficult that is. But if you're heading for the rocks, it's better to put the engine in reverse and not hit the rocks. Whereas I think some of the bigger companies who have bigger portfolios tend to charge on in the old way, saying, well, we'll miss that rock, you know, let's hope that we get past another one.